who is the chairman of that tribunal, will take us from our resolve to fight for a better day, decent wages, and respect. I will want to just start by showing you something. And I think it is important that we understand this history. And before the PNM say a lie, I'm showing all it. You see it, Dr. Rowley? And this is Sunday the 16th of November 2014, Queen's Park Savannah Grandstand, addressed by the political leader of the party. And the most critical thing that I will want to read to, and you must answer me. This is what this man said. We believe this is achievable, which is 6 principles, with policies that are people-centered. I want to repeat that policies that are people-centered and just, and leadership that is principled. That is what this government said in 2014 when they come asking for your votes. The question that I ask you today, and all your talk now, man, talk out hard, let our ancestors, mothers and fathers hear our voices today. Is this government a people-centered government? Is this a government that put the working class first? Is this a government that put the poor communities first? Is this a government that cares about the youth of this country? Is this government that cares about whether or not our youths who don't bring in the guns, who don't bring in the drugs are dying because of those same things, but you do not a damn thing to stop the drugs from coming into our country, and then you blame we the people for what is happening. And then comrades, today's a serious day. And I agree with you. I agree with you. Too much talking. Right. And I want to say, in keeping with our tradition, and you will understand what I mean, I am black and proud, and I'm happy to say that. And I'm happy to recognize my ancestor mothers and fathers and those who were slaves that come to Trinidad and Tobago. And no government gonna get me to change my mind. So I want to start by saying, brothers and sisters, that we manifest, and I want you all to understand, our reality through our God within. Because we have a God within ourselves, a God, all right, within. And with the protection and guidance of our ancestors. Let me repeat it so you'll understand. We the people, we the working class, we manifest our reality through our God within and with the protection and guidance of our ancestors. And this is what this arrogant government do not understand. This is what this PNM government do not understand. This is what the Rowley-led administration do not understand. They believe that slavery still exists. They believe because they look like us. We will believe that they are one of us. But don't judge them by if they look by us. Judge them by what they do to us and what they deliver to us. And that, my brother, has to be the clarion call as we leave Faisabad, as we prepare for local elections. We must understand that if you're not for us, we're not for you. And the days come, the days is over, when we're going to say that we is PNM until we dead. We're not going to dead because they're trying to kill us with that 4%. And we must demonstrate clearly, come local election, this is just the preparation, that we the workers won't be fooled any longer. So having said that, brother, I want to express a view. I want to have this conversation with you all. And I want to say that the test is whether we are going to be governed by fear or whether we're going to stand up. And people might be saying, but what is that talking about? What are you talking about fear? I will tell you why I say fear. Yes, brothers and sisters, fear is when a prime minister who is elected by the people is elected by the people to serve, and a PNM government tells you that you're coming by my house, don't forget that, and all they're marching up and down and begging for your back pay. Well, all you go get the back pay and all you go lose all your jobs. Didn't he say that, brothers and sisters? A man, all you get into what I'm saying, a man, because we just forget too quick. He said that. He threatened us. Don't forget that I the same prime minister that said, if you don't take your job as public servants, you'll be fired and forlorn. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that, brothers and sisters. So then, we have to now ask ourselves, and we must understand that we are the most productive force in this society. Without workers, you cannot have production. You cannot have profits. You cannot have your economy turning over. And you must never forget that, brothers and sisters. Let me repeat it, because we seem not to understand. If all of us tomorrow decide that we're not working, the whole damn economy is going to shut down. And then they will begin to understand what is the power of workers. And that is why I'm making the point that we are the most productive force in the world. We produce the wealth. And without us, you cannot have wealth. But more importantly, brothers and sisters, without the workers who will have the ability through proper wages to buy the goods and service, the economy is going to turn down. The economy is going to end up in a precipice, an economic precipice. In other words, we produce, and it's we who buy the goods and service. And it's the purchase of that very goods and service, the purchase of the sweet drink, the purchase of the TV, the purchase of the bread, the purchase of the pizza, all those things is what keep the economy turning over. And if we withdraw that, you know what will happen to the economy. So you must be proud and you must stand up and demand what is yours, what is your rights. Stand up, don't be afraid, brothers and sisters. Don't be afraid to say, no, we're not accepting the 4% over 6 years. It is an insult. It is an insult to all of us. And just let me bring that into context, right? And I will bring it down simple for you. If you're working for $200, 10% is, I'm not hearing all the 10% of 200 is $20. And then 2% is how much? 2% is how much? You almost understand what this government trying to tell you all to accept. Like if we are damn stupid and saying there are no money. There are no money. We go deal with that just now. So having said that, brother, having said that, I like to speak from my personal experience and my journey in this life, because there has been a lot of ups and downs. There has been a lot of things that I've learned from. There's a lot of things that I've made mistakes from. There's a lot of times I have glorious ideas. But I have learned that in this journey on Mother Earth, in this physical and spiritual journey, you cannot change the world with just an idea. It is one thing to say people power. It is one thing to vote them out. Those are just ideas. The question is how do we translate that into reality? Because only when we bring what we are saying into reality is then they are going to respect us. So having said that, brothers, right, to change the world with just ideas of just freedom, integrity, good governance in our minds. We need a conviction in our hearts. That conviction in your heart has taught me that we must live in hope. There is this tendency for them to make us believe that everything is hopeless. There's this tendency for some people to tell us, as I was told, well, look, some of the people take 4% already, and he said, what are you arguing about? If my four parents had said, boy, look, all of us as slaves, we are not going to fight. We want to be here today, we would have been still under slavery. But it's because of that conviction for standing up for what is right that we are free today. Thank God Almighty that we are free today. And we must understand that is a historical fact that will never, ever change. Change don't come into your laps, brothers. We have to fight for that change. We have to have that conviction in our hearts to move collaboratively, to move collectively, because we are the children of God, and the voice of the people is the voice of God, and we must never, ever, ever forget that. No matter how dark it looks, at the darkest moment, I am telling you, the light is going to come. So having said that, brother, so I have learned that hopelessness, brothers, is the enemy of justice. Let me repeat it. When you live in hopelessness, it's the enemy of justice. But I also believe that hope helps us to push forward. When you have hope and conviction, it will help you to push forward. Even when the truth is distorted by the PNM-led government and people in power, when we have hope and conviction, we will be able to push forward. Hope, brothers and sisters, and conviction will allow us to stand up when they tell us, sit down. Hope, and the divine power within us will allow us to speak up when they tell us, shut up and give me a break. You remember that word? Give me a break. You understand? Forest. Everything in forest. Everything is diversified. Don't forget those words, brothers and sisters. Don't forget this. And I believe, brothers, from my experience, brothers and sisters, the opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is injustice. I want to repeat it because we just get tired up. The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is really injustice. It's because of the injustice that is meted out and handed out to us, right, that we find ourselves in these kinds of situations. You see, brothers and sisters, for too long we have been programmed. Yes, brothers, we have been programmed to believe that the character of our nation is how we treat with the rich. The character of this nation is how we treat with big business. The character of this nation is how we treat with the finances of the political parties and the political elites. Yes, the political elites and those who call themselves and believe that they are 10 gods. Those intellectual parasites, as I call them. But the question is how we treat with the disadvantaged workers. That is what the policy has to be. That is what demonstrates the character of your society. How you treat with your people, how you treat with your workers, how you treat with the disadvantaged within the communities, how you treat with your elders, how you treat with the youths. That is what determines the character of any society, not any damn politician standing up on TV and talking down to us, or those who make money and upon money and doesn't want to share in the wealth. Brothers and sisters, we must begin to understand, brothers and sisters, that as a people and as a society, that we have to determine what kind of society that we want. Our society must never, ever, ever be determined by the politicians again. We have to get together. We have to get together and determine what kind of society we want for our children. That is our responsibility. Do we want a society where decent wages and living wages is paid to everybody? Do we want a society where workers are respected? Do we want a society whereby a society cannot and must not be that whatever I say, you have to take? We must have a society that understands that why it is that the government deliberately did not give the OWTU Petrotrin to run. We must understand that, brothers and sisters. We must understand that under this PNM regime, that when they come into power, they took away a contract from Cement and Waterfront Workers Trade Union because we were able to manage that contract and we were making money and profits. And profits is not for me and you. They don't see me and you making profits, and therefore there mustn't be no petrol train owned by the OWTU or no ferry service that is run by the Cement and Waterfront Workers Trade Union. That is a reality. We ran that successfully, and as soon as the government came into power, the first thing that they set out to do was to deny us the right to run that service that was running. And that service was bringing thousands of jobs to people in the depressed community. You understand what I am saying? Don't leave here today, brothers and sisters, forgetting these thoughts. We have a tendency, and we are all guilty of it. We march today and we go home and forget everything. But this is a new dawn. This is a new beginning. This is a new enlightenment. This is a new approach to how we do business now. That today is just a beginning of that new dawn. Today is the beginning when we say, no, no, Rowley, you can't treat we so. No, him, but we wouldn't take that disrespect. No, no, PNM, no, 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 no. You cannot take away quotas from our workers and do not control the price of goods and services. How dare you do that and sleep in the night? And some of them that stand up and say, don't forget that, you know. If you believe in God, well, believe in PNM. When a society reach to a minister invoking God and making PNM a God, we understand why it have all the crime and all the corruption in this society. Because that is vanity. That is not spirituality. And we must never forget that. We must never forget the COVID-19 situation where they try to force us to take the injection. People went and take it, and I have no issues with that. But what is important now is that Africa, the continent that did not take the vaccine and the least vaccinated continent, had the least COVID cases. But more importantly, brothers and sisters, over the COVID period, we had the death of 5 African leaders who were standing up for an alternative. And as I speak to you, as I move forward, because I'm coming to an end, we have a new dynamic that is happening in Trinidad. How dare you, Keith Rowley, bring in the WHO to talk about a regime that will enslave our people in Trinidad and Tobago, that will give the WHO authority over we, the citizens, that will give the WHO the authority to interfere with my sacred body, my body, which is sacred. And you sign that, and you say you will sign it without any discussions with the people who will be affected, which is our children. Comrades, we must pay attention to that. That is another fight that we will have in the labor movement, because we cannot allow the WHO, who is funded by the pharmaceutical industry, to have control over our rights as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And don't forget, there were other voices who were cast out, who were talking against the COVID-19, and they didn't want you to hear it. But you know what it was? It was a narcissistic tendency, because you could have come on TV and say, do this, do that, do that. Wear mask. If you're in wear mask, $1,000, take your injection. If you ain't take it, we go for loan on you and we go fire you. That is a narcissistic tendency. It gives you a false sense of power, that you use your power to enforce things against the people's will. And therefore, brothers and sisters, we must never forget that. There's a new thing. I have no issue with sexual orientation, none whatsoever. But I'm warning you, and I'm warning them, if you bring in that kind of philosophy for my children and my young children to make that part of our educational system, we say in the labor movement, no way, no way. Our children deserve protection. If all you want to do all your thing, all you do it, or there's 21. But don't interfere with our children. I'm warning all you. You will get a fight that you will never see in your life. Like how we stood up against the COVID-19, we will stand up against that. So brothers and sisters, this is the conversation that I want to have with you all. And I want to end by saying, brothers, have no fear, you know. You remember, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He made me to lie down in green pastures. Don't forget that, brothers and sisters. And don't understand, and when we say the Lord is our shepherd, understand what we mean in our African tradition. Understand that. And understand that the workers of iniquity, they're trying to dig a pit for us to fall in, but they will fall in it because who shall bless? No man curse. He shall never hunger or thirst, brothers and sisters. And remember, I am because you are, and you are because I am. And remember that we are part of this universe. We are part of this universe, and our spirituality is lined up. And if we begin to understand that, we shall overcome all darkness, like how light will always continue to conquer darkness, because you outside there, brothers and sisters, you are the light. You are the light, and don't ever forget that. So when things are done, don't give up, don't leave, don't lose hope. You remember, collectively and within our innate spirituality, like our ancestors, mothers and fathers, we can overcome. We shall overcome. One love, one people, one working class. Power to the working class. Forward ever, backward never. Forward ever, backward never. Forward ever, backward never. Enough of the PNM. Enough of the PNM. Enough of the PNM. God bless you. God bless Trinidad and Tobago. One love always. One love. One love. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you. I love you all. Trinidad and Tobago, we the workers, we are the productive forces. And don't ever forget that. And we put them there, and we go put them out. Don't forget that. Local election coming. Let us send a clear message that enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you.
All right, let's hear it again for Brother Anisette. All right, I'll do that again. Let's hear it again from Mr. Michael Anisette, General Secretary of NATUC and President of the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union. Our next speaker, no stranger to the Faizabad stage, and is the President of the Public Services Association. Please welcome to the podium, Mr. Leroy Batiste.
PSA passé. Faizabad. Trade unions. Let me acknowledge, comrades. Comrade Ansel Rocher. I want to acknowledge Comrade Ansel Rocher. I want to acknowledge OWTU from ensuring year after year we can come in Faizabad and commemorate Labor Day. Comrades, while you come to hear me, I come to hear you. When a war and you purport to be leading in that war, you don't want to look back and feel as ghosts you're leading. I want to know it's real people. Are you there? I'm working for the cleaners. I'm working for the cleaners, comrade. I'm working for the public officers. I'm working for the WASA workers. I'm working for the BIR workers. I'm working for every single worker. That's what it's about. That's what we're here for. Comrades, before us, I was overstayed, but welcome. Let me go to my script because a lot I want to say. I'm going to my script. I'll come back to say anything I want to say. Today, on this Labor Day, here in Faizabad, I come here to sing the battle cry. Gird yourselves and fight like never before. Comrades, I reflect from the last Labor Day to this Labor Day, and I ask for your response. Are workers still in low-paying jobs, living from paycheck to paycheck? Are workers still unable to put a roof over their family's head? Are workers still struggling to put food on the table and often do so at the expense of their health? Are workers still unable to properly take care of their health needs? Are workers still unable to leave an inheritance for their children and their children's children? Do we still have the decimation of the middle class and the widening of the gap between the have and the have-nots? Do we still have the exploitation of workers through the proliferation of contract work for performing work of a continuous nature? Do we still have a deliberate and orchestrated attack on organized labor and the trade union movement by this PNM administration? So, brothers and sisters, nothing has changed, therefore, from the last Labor Day to this Labor Day. Therefore, we must recommit ourselves to continue this war. We must fight. We must fight for good paying jobs. Do you agree? We must fight for permanent jobs. Do you agree? We must fight for jobs that can afford us to take care of our families, feed our families comfortably. Do you agree? We must fight for jobs that afford us to be able to put a shelter over our family's head. Do you agree? We must fight for jobs that allows us the ability to take care of our health. Do you agree? We must fight for jobs that afford us to be able to leave an inheritance not just for our children, but our children's children. Do you agree? We must fight against any government, this PNM government that intend to decimate the middle class and widen the gap between the have and the have-nots. Do you agree? We must fight any government that attacks organized labor and the trade union movement. Do you agree? Comrades, we will take care of that. Permit me, comrades, to put a little context to this struggle. I was reminded just quite recently in a forum that the foundation of this society was built upon slavery and indentured servitude. The actors then would have been slaves, indentured servants, and the slave owners. I want to add this category. And you had the house Negroes and the colonial masters. The slaves were unable to take care of themselves and their family. Guess what? The more things change, the more they remain the same. Back then, comrades, the slaves had to fight. The slave owners and the colonial masters for their freedom, and moreover, for a better life for themselves and their families. Today, comrades, the slaves have been replaced. The slaves have been replaced with public officers. The slaves have been replaced with essential workers. They have replaced indentured servants with all workers. Comrades, the colonial masters have been replaced. The colonial masters have been replaced by what we call the privileged class, the ruling class, the government ministers, and of course, what they call the chief, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And our house Negroes have been replaced with the managerial staff. In short, this society now more than ever is hell-bent on workers being powerless and condemned to a subsistent existence. Like back then, today, comrades, we must fight for our freedom. We must fight for a decent life. We must fight for our children and our children's children, comrades. some of us, you feel you could bear the troubles of the day, but your responsibility is not just for yourselves. Your responsibility is for your children and your children's children. Black power forever. The shackles, comrade, the shackles of oppression may have changed. What keeps you? What keeps you, comrade, as a slave? Let me be clear. Some of you may be wondering, wait now, boy, I am a slave. Some of you may be wondering, I am an indentured servant. You must be wondering that. But let me tell you one thing that is sure. Those who replace the slave owners, the colonial masters and the house Negroes, they're sure that they are your masters. They don't have no doubt. And therefore, comrades, we have to recognize the tools they use. One of the tools that they use for ensuring your slavery is none other than the Industrial Relations Act. Comrades, the IRA, and there's a reason why I'm pointing out those things. Because this struggle must only end when we bring an end to those things, or we'll become a slave without knowing that we are slaves. The IRA, comrades, there are two aspects. The whole IRA is bad law. But there are two aspects of the IRA I want to point out to you that we have to take care of once and for all. Let me start first with the industrial court. This so-called industrial court the industrial court, comrades, is the most Let me do it in nice language. I'm speaking essentially of the Essential Services Division and the Special Tribunal. The most basic requirement for appearing before a court to adjudicate on an issue is that those who appear before the court must believe that they will be given a fair hearing in your case. Correct? In our case, unions and workers by extension are expected to appear before the Essential Services Division or the Special Tribunal and appear against the employer, who is the state. But comrades, the judges of the Essential Services Division and the Special Tribunal are appointed by the state. And more than that, they are appointed on contract. And their contract are renewed at the pleasure of the state. And in the case of the Special Tribunal and the ESD, the state appoints the chairperson of the Special Tribunal and the ESD, and they even appoint such a person if he is a past politician and minister of the said government. Comrades, that is completely contrary to the principle of the separation of powers between the political directorate and the court, the judiciary. Comrade, if there was ever something inherently wrong with a judicial system, is that is inherently biased. No other judicial system has such a contradiction. But I feel such a contradiction is good for workers. You must take that. Comrades, we must fight for this madness to come to an end. Do you agree? That is one of the shackles, comrade, that have us where we are. The other one is denying us the right to engage in industrial action. Comrades, I have no issue with the idea of public interest. But you can't tell me public interest and that I cannot take industrial action. But at the same time, you have no obligation to take care of me. Comrades, if there are to be public interest, they have to seek your interest. At no point in time can a human being be made to suffer loss of his property and he don't have a right to fight for it. That is what happens when inflation eats at your salary. You are, in fact, having an effective cut in your pay, in your purchasing power. And if they want you to stay like a silent lamb, they have an obligation to maintain your standard of living. And comrade, if that is not happening, then that right to engage in a balance, therefore, must be struck. Public interest with your interest. If that is not so, prohibition must go. Do you agree? Comrades, the other act that is a slave Owners Act is the Civil Service Act. That is an act that the state is not compelled to meet with us. But yet, we can take industrial action. So no, there is no obligation to meet and treat with us, and we must remain like silent lambs, comrade. That's a shackle. And here was worse, you all experience it. Years after then, they say they'll meet. And then, after 2 meetings, they refer it down to the next thing called the special tribunal. Comrade, the Civil Service Act does not seek workers' interests. Therefore, the Civil Service Act, as it's presently constructed, must come to an end. Do you agree? There are numerous other shackles of oppression used by our enemy, comrades. Nevertheless, this government, in its quest to enslave and destroy organized labor and the trade union movement, has weaponized the IRA and the CSA, resulting in public officers being made to be spectators in their own demise. They cannot lift a finger in defense of their jobs. So, the Board of Inland Revenue and the Custom and Excise Division are told to take this and have no say whatsoever in how the TTRA impacts their lives. Are we taking that? WASA workers, are made to stand indifferently and watch and listen to the government demonize them as they move full speed ahead to take their jobs. Are we taking that? Corporate officers, Central Tenders Board, Central Statistical Officers, HDC workers are made bystanders while the government move full speed ahead to take their jobs. Are we taking that? Workers being denied permanent appointment even after 20 years of continuous service in the RHAs, in WASA, in HDC, in the public service, just to name a few. Are we going to continue taking that, comrades? The government, comrades, the government intent is to impose the non-consolidation of, hey, comrades, only distracting. Comrades, only distracting. The government intent is to impose the non-consolidation of cost of living to our base salary before applying increases. Are we taking that? Last but not least, comrades, the government intention is to impose 4% on public officers and all other remaining state workers. Are we taking that? Comrades are only warming up for the feature address. The feature address coming and he go tell all of you what we gonna do. Comrades, let me close by saying this is not a PSA fight. This is not the trade union movement fight. This is not even the workers' fight. This fight is for our beautiful country, Trinidad and Tobago. This is a fight for the moral and spiritual values of our country. Therefore, let us all fight for TNT as it is affirmed in our Constitution. And I quote, I'm quoting the Constitution, comrade, only listen. Whereas the people of Trinidad and Tobago have affirmed that the nation of Trinidad and Tobago is founded upon principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God, faith in the fundamental human rights and freedoms, the position of the family in a society of free men and free institutions, the dignity of the human person, and the equal and inalienable rights with which all members of the human family are endowed by their Creator. Whereas the people of Trinidad and Tobago respect the principles of social justice and therefore believe that the operations of the economic system should result in the material resources of the community being so distributed as to subserve the common good, that there should be adequate means of livelihood for all and should not be exploited forced by economic necessity to operate in inhumane conditions, but that there should be opportunity for advancement on the basis of recognition of merit, ability, and integrity. That is the country we're fighting for, comrades. So, comrades, we shall fight on. We shall fight them in BIR, and together we shall win. We shall fight them in customs and excise, and together we shall win. We shall fight them in the Central Tenders Board, and together we shall win. We shall fight them in the Presbyterian School, and together we shall win. We shall fight them in the Central Statistical Office, and together we shall win. We shall fight them at the HDC, and together we shall win. We shall fight them at the RHAs, and together we shall win. We shall fight them at WASA, and together we shall win. We shall fight them. We shall fight them. We shall fight them, and together we shall win. Forward ever! Forward ever! Forward ever! Thank you, comrades. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, Comrade Batiste, for that spirited and passionate address. And thank you for the reminder that the fight is not just our fight, but the fight is for our children, and the fight is for our beloved country of Trinidad and Tobago. We'll take a little break at this point in time for two performances. Our first performer is a daughter of the soil and avid calypsonian. Please welcome to the stage, and before I welcome her, I'm asking persons to remain because we have another artist that will be performing after her. Right? So, please welcome to the stage, Lady Gypsy. All right, welcome her, please. Please welcome Lady Gypsy.
Faizabad! Oh, Faizabad! My home people. Are they ready for me? I feel I'm going back and I'm going. Are you sure? Are you ready for this? All right. If all you say so, we go do it. Wet them. It's not red fire today, it's blue dragon fire they go get. Just run the track. Volume, volume. Pump it, pump it. I have a political cemetery. It's not for people like you and me. It is for all them politicians. And I dig in the grave, no pork with my hand. I find some of them, they living too long. And every 5 years is the same old song. Some of them dead, just shame to lie down. So I prepare for them a burial ground. Rowley, my post grave for he. With joy in my heart, put him down with me. All of them useless politicians, only making up numbers in my island. Al-Rari, I refuse body. I leave them Muslim, them to deal with he. Big smile on the face and with me bare hand. It's time to move trash from out of this land. I don't care all who go vex with me, but Kamala I not ready to bury. She is a strong, determined woman like me, and deserve a chance to run this country. When she in power, I don't go hungry, and Calypsonian does get big money. She don't deserve no spot in my cemetery. I put in she in the center of the city. Paula, you too damn lazy. You sit on a throne while women die daily. You deserve a nice spot in my cemetery. All you do is just collect big salary. Rages, you disappoint me with your racial tongue, girl, that you can't see. Your baba does trim you with weed waka. All day, all you do is bounce to the line. I saved this verse for good. In birth I take in my time with he. I both and I will prepare his body. Make sure he have a sardonic grin on his face. That's all he does do. That man is away. Bury he in the back of my cemetery. Turn he upside down. His face I can't see. Look for the strongest grave digger to cover he. Not with the hand, but good for body. Gypsy, political grasshopper. I may feel a pity cause he's my brother. But like Tarzan, he's swinging from vine to vine. It's time I help you to make up your mind. Fitzgerald, Rasta City, I know they go glad to get the body. Red Sea on the town down for all to see. Drink 2 beers and watch go happy. that, man. Yes, man. Loving my Pfizer people and Sando and all over Port of Spain. Everybody, keep it coming.
You must come bust a line with me. We go knock a glass, make we self happy. I yardy that what you is to me. A grassroots man, stand up for country. I will stand by your side and watch you at work. But if you falter, you're going to get for. Watson, what is wrong with you? I thought you had valley would have stick like glue. Boy, shake the man hand and tighten that space. Before PNM come back and win that race. Jamfa, what we sacrifice. Yet every week she have new weave, man, she live at night. You are the cold but man resemblance strong. A bomb she just read out. Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Let's give it up for Lady Gypsy. Our next performer goes by the sobriquet, the big man in the business, on the Water Lord. Please welcome to the Faizabad stage, Mr. Neil Iowa George.
Let me use this mic. I'll show about this mic. I know all they expect when I come on stage, all they expect me to come with some water. I didn't walk with no water today. You know why? Because as changing my song, the people want union. This country want, the country want, the country want, the country want. See, like time me say, if Trinidad on fire, Tobago on fire, Trinidad on fire, the people want, the people want, the people want, the people want. What the people want? What the people want? Carnival, they jumping in the sun. Ash when they are balling for sunburn. There's one with a cooler temperature. The people want. The people want. Trinidad need. The people want. Raise your hand if you want some union. Raise your hand, jump up in the union. Raise your hand if you want some. The people want. The people want. The people want. Jesse Martin. Trinidad on fire. Tobago on fire. Trinidad on fire. The people want water. The people want water. The people want water. The people want water. What the people want? Water. What the people want? Water. Carnival, they jumping in the sun. It's one minute cool that temperature. Put your hand in the air. Put your two hand in the air. The people want water. The people want water. The people want union. Union. Raise your hand if you're inside the union. Raise your hand, jump up in the union. Raise your hand. The people want water. The people want water. The people want water. The people want water. Chip, chip, the water flowing. What you gotta do? Carnival Monday if the rain falling. Play my low. All the people want to see union. Put your two hand in there. Union. Put your two hand in there now. Jump, jump up in the union. Jump up in the union. Jump. You know what? You know what? Once you have union, you want to tell her. You want to tell her.
I want to see your right hand.
Show me what you stand up. Stand up.
Put up your right hand.
This is the union leader, you know. Show me on your right hand. Your right hand. Sing.
Trinidad. Trinidad.
Where my people? Where my people? Where my people?
Where my people? Where my people?
I cannot understand, say, when I'm in a session, every time that I'm passing, you know the beginning of the union last. Tell them we don't like that. We got to fix that. Get ready to jump up. Hey, show me all the two in the air. Everybody say union. I love you. My name is Ivan George, the big boss of the business. I love you. But I know, union, we're going to union went to Panorama. I come back for the Mashgra. Even for Guinea's Carnival. It was a, I want everybody jump on one foot, jump. But when I come back, and I hear that, on the steam. Because the stage not good again. I said the stage not OWT, your stage not good again. After we jump. What? Do the eye walk. So we come to mash it up, shell it down and turn it over. We go mash it up. I say mash it up. All the one. You're not there. Do the eye walk. So we come to mash it up, shell it down. We say mash it up. I say. Everybody put your two hand in the air, two hand again, two hand again. Check out in the face. In the face. In the face, Lord.
Party people up in how could this stage? How could this stage? How could this stage be good?
I want everybody to put your two hand over the air, so flat. Ready for it. Ready for it. Lord question. I have a question. All the Iowa George fans, put your 2 in the air. Look. All Roger fans, put your 2 in the air. All trade union posse, put your 2 in the air. What is the mash? I love you. My name is Iowa George, the big boss in the business. My brother, you know I love you for life.
We come to mash it up, shell it down, and turn it over.
Well, let's see the next song I'm going and do. I want all to do what this song say to do, right? Are you ready? Selector, play the tune.
Play me the rhythm.
Union people, I say come to me. Come to me. Come to me. Come to me. Keep coming. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Selector. I plan to start something soca and go and start to sing some. In Labourday. Everybody do so. Everybody do so. All trade union people, I say come to me. Come to me. Come to me. Come to me. Go away from where? Go away from where? Go away from where? Go away from here. I say come to me. Come to me. My Lord. Go. I want you to sing Juve morning when we start to jam sing. A black like tar and I don't give a damn because Labor Day again. From the time they see my face, the trade union know is. But every time I sing my soca song, they wanna fight me. And in the end, I'm going to stop the soca and go on and look for every night. Everybody do so. Treating people as they I love you. Can I sing one more? Play it, Kevin. Just stop. Can I sing one more? On the show? Well, start jumping. Keep jumping. Keep on jumping. Hand in the air. Start jumping. Trade union is toy. If you know the rebel, I say put your 2 in the air. Jump, I say. Jump, I say. Jump, I say. Well, and we come back and get on board. Put your hand up everywhere now. Jump, I say. Oh, na na na. We never fell down the stadium. Call a riot in tongue. What tell them when jab music inside the brain? I say, everybody put your right hand in the air. We gonna mash up again. Oh, jab, come back again. And if they fight me again, open the bottle and take a sip. Jab, mash up again. Jab. What tell them when jab music inside your brain? I say, I want everybody point your fingers so. We're going to take a little run for the West. We're going to show them the powers of union. We're going, let me go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. Run down west. I say run down west. Pick up your chest. I say run down west. I say come back east. I say come back east. I say come back east. Aye. All the Iowa George fans put your 2 in the air now. All trade union supporters, I want to see everybody put your 2 in the air now. Oh, na. Everybody know I'm in my hand. I got to go, Lord. What tell them when soca music? I say, when trade union inside your brain. I say, when the fighters and when we fight them back inside we brain, tell them, I say we. My name is Iowa George, the big boss of the business. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Let's hear it for the man, Neil Iowa George. proclamation for the day from our beloved President General, Comrade Ansel Roger. Let's welcome him to the podium, please.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let me say, join me in thanking our friend and comrade, our brother, Neil Iwa George, friend of the trade union movement, friend of the OWTO, from the south, from the deep south, and understand the business that we are in. And as I say that, I just want you to stay the course. Stay the course. This is the last message here this afternoon. Stay the course. But first, PSA, OWTO, join me by saying, PNM stage not good again. Rowley stage not good again. And we're going to fix that. Let me thank our brother and comrade Leroy Baptiste, who did a magnificent job. Magnificent job. Tearing apart the foolishness. And before I start, let me say, I hear somebody talking about how we should collaborate and we should come together and that the world has changed. You're right. While the world changed for the better, Trinidad and Tobago under Rowley has changed for the worse. And that is the business we are about here fixing. The chair of this year's Labor Day rally, our friend and comrade, you saw her just a while ago, Sister Marsha Huggins, the second vice president of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association tutor, my comrades, leaders of the Joint Trade Union Movement and leaders of the National Trade Union Center, sharing this Labor Day platform with me this afternoon on the occasion of our 86th anniversary of modern trade union movement in Trinidad and Tobago at this historic Charlie King Junction, members of the media, members of the protective services, members of civil society groups, our youth, farmers, political and religious organizations, our retirees, social activists, sisters and brothers, well-wishers, President and members of the Faizabad Chamber, our listening audiences both home and abroad. Good afternoon. Well, let me say something. As we recognize the sacrifices of those who went before us in the labor movement and who would have laid this unshakable, resolute foundation and platform standing on the shoulders of those giants, today we pay our homage and respect and gratitude for their immeasurable contribution. But as we do this, comrades, there are those who are disrespectful to labor. You see, it is that lack of appreciation, lack of respect and regard for our own history, particularly the history of the labor movement, which has made enormous contribution to our country's development. How many of us know, or even care to remember, that it was the trade union movement that fought for universal adult suffrage, that sacred right of every citizen to vote? How many of us know that it was the trade union movement that laid the foundation for our country's independence? How many of us really know that? Even long before all these current political parties, PNM included, even before all of them was established, the trade union movement was here. So regardless of the naysayers, regardless of the detractors, and regardless of those who would ungratefully condemn us, the trade union movement was here yesterday, it's here today, and it will be here forever. Like it or love it, vex or please, the trade union movement is here to stay. But today, more than ever, comrades, our society is faced with a real clear and present danger. It is a real danger where the fate of our democratic republic now hangs in the balance. And let us be clear, that danger and threat is completely different to any other of the past. But as a people, how we respond at this precise moment will determine if we still have a free and fair democratic society. A society that is free from repression, a society that is free from fascism, and one that is free from dictatorship. Today, in Trinidad and Tobago, every democratic institution is under threat. For example, even the institution that is responsible for appointing a commissioner of police has been compromised. Given the critical nature of that appointment process, comrades, and the present unprecedented level of crime, any reasonable person would think that that institution would not have been tampered with. But alas, that too has not escaped political interference. There are those who say the trade union movement is only using scare tactics and that we only rabble-rousing and making noise because all is well and that we are not under attack. But mark my words, Trinidad and Tobago. Today, Monday the 19th of June, in the year of our Lord, 2023, we in the trade union movement are issuing a stark warning to you that this attack is by this government is not only on the trade union movement, but with the exception of the 1%, the attack is on every single citizen, whether you're aware of it or not. This afternoon, you are reminded of the famous quote from one Martin Niemöller, a German Lutheran pastor during Nazi Germany, and I quote, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." End of quote. You see, comrades, there's a concerted effort to decimate the middle class, impoverish the entire working class, and push ordinary people to the margins of the society into perpetual poverty. Make no mistake about it, comrades. This is done in the interest of the 1% at the expense of the rest of us. For this government, it is not about the people. Don't let them fool you with that. For them, we the people just don't matter. But as a labor movement, we refuse to accept this level of disrespect and disregard for the people. As the citizens of this country, we definitely deserve much better. Therefore, we must demand respect and good governance from them. From them sons of. We must be prepared to unite and fight for it. Because remember, the power of the people is always greater than the people in power. So it is precisely for this reason, comrades, that this year the trade union movement selected as a theme for Labor Day 2023, people power, people matter. And let me say, trade union power, trade union matter. PSA power, PSA matter. Workers power, workers matter. Comrades, this afternoon, I know a lot of people will be offended with what I'm about to say. A lot of people would become angry because they just cannot handle the truth. But I want to tell them that I am not in this for friends. I do not want them to like me. I have my family to do that. And my trade union friends, of course. I have a duty to call it as I see it, and who vex loss. We in the labor movement, we will always call a spade, regardless. No doubt, no doubt. But I know we are stronger than the power of the trade union movement. Yes, none. From Lekito, from wherever, the trade union movement and the power of the Almighty is stronger than anything else. So we in the labor movement will always call a spade regardless. We have always spoken truth to power, and we will continue to speak out fearlessly regardless of the consequences. We claim moral authority regardless of who is in government. So if they want to challenge me this evening, don't challenge me on emotions, or on race, or on your sycophant party politics, or on your dotish PNM politics. Don't even challenge me on your opinion. Challenge me on facts, because facts matters. And pay close attention, comrades, because this afternoon, we have placed crime as our first issue. Why? Because crime affects every single citizen as a matter of life and death. It is the primary responsibility of every government to ensure the safety and security of all its citizens. But nevertheless, the undeniable fact is that this government has failed miserably in discharging its responsibility to keep the citizens safe and secure. Just imagine, listen to how people outside commenting on us. Just imagine, Trinidad and Tobago has been listed number 6 by the World of Statistics, WOS, for being among the most criminal countries in the world. Trinidad and Tobago was also listed number 6 in the 2023 report by the World Population Review and Crime Rate by Countries, WPR. The WPR placed Trinidad and Tobago at 71.63 per 100,000 population, a figure that is higher than countries like Brazil and Jamaica, the report stated. In addition, the U.S. State Department renewed its travel advisory for Trinidad and Tobago November 8 last year. The department advised U.S. travelers to reconsider traveling to Trinidad and Tobago. Only last week, Friday, June 16, 2023, the UK Guardian published an online article by Tracy McVeigh with the disturbing title, "The Caribbean Island of Trinidad and Tobago Grapple with a National Crisis of Crime and Violence." End of quote. The article stated, and I quote, "Killings of women and girls in Trinidad and Tobago have now reached an all-time high, while police and politicians are failing to tackle the rising crime rate." End of quote. Just leave them talking about us. In 2022, we had the highest number of murders in our country's history, with 607 persons being brutally murdered. From 2016 to 2022, 2,922 people were murdered. This occurred even as we had almost 2 years of COVID-19 lockdown and also a state of emergency during the same period. More people have been murdered under this Rowley-led PNM government than any other previous government, even more than under the Manning-led PNM government. These killings, comrades, have now reached an alarming level of 5, 6, and 7 persons being murdered every day. When examined, we have already recorded, as of June 18th, yesterday, 2023, 264 persons murdered as compared to 238 persons for the same period last year. The sad conclusion is that we are worse off now and with no end in sight. These are not just mere statistics. The effect of every murder means that families are now left without breadwinners. And not to mention the extreme mental anguish and trauma for families and orphan children left behind to scramble for their own survival. Home invasions have now become a norm. Home invasions where families are beaten, robbed, brutalized, and even killed in the presence of terrified, screaming children. These home invasions are committed by an ever-increasing army of heavily armed criminals who knows that there is absolutely no consequences to face for their lethal criminal action under an incompetent, Rowley-led government. We have been forced to accept daily assassinations where people are gunned down in broad daylight in full view of a frightened public, a frightened public who always are not successful in scampering for their lives. Drive-by shootings and killings have now become a norm. When the Aqua, the AD wagon, the Wetman, or the Fielder, the criminal vehicle of choice, when one of those vehicles pulls up next to you and that glass rolls down and they start to spray bullets from the AR-15 and other lethal weapon, they don't business which political party you're from, you know. They don't business who you're supporting, you know. If you are PNM or what, you know. They come to do a job and they will not stop until that job is done. That's how serious it is. The government and their sympathizers would have you believe that all these murders are gang-related. And that if you are not involved in a gang, you should have nothing to fear. So tell that to the families of those who are killed in the crossfire, killed because of mistaken identity, or killed by a paid assassin. These are all law-abiding citizens who had absolutely nothing to do with any gang. Imagine a woman coming out of a bathroom last year, remember that? In her own home, and was killed by a stray bullet to her head. Like so many others, she had absolutely nothing to do with any crime or illegal criminal activities. The sad reality is, comrades, is that the next person to be killed could very well be you, or me, or a friend, or a family member. Let me remind you that the only reason why you and I are alive today is because nobody wants you dead as yet. It's as simple as that. Almost every day, we are experiencing double-digit figures of armed robberies of business places across the country, where not only the business owners, but you, the customers, are beaten and shot and robbed, or even murdered by these murderers who have absolutely no fear for the police. Today in Trinidad and Tobago, it is easier for someone to access a deadly illegal weapon than a cell phone. And sometimes the police are literally reluctant to approach them because of some of the most extremely dangerous weapons these criminals possess. It is an established fact, comrades, that drugs and illegal guns go hand in hand. But let's ask a question. Where are these illegal weapons coming from? Who are the ones importing these weapons and drugs and benefiting from it? What we know for sure is that the majority of these guns end up in the hands of our young black men, who we are certain are not the importers and who definitely are not benefiting from it, because it is their lives and the lives of many thousands of our innocent law-abiding citizens that are being snuffed out with their blood are being spilled in the street. Let's ask another question. Who is responsible for preventing these illegal guns, drugs, and ammunition from entering our country through our legal and illegal ports of entry? Is it the churches? Is it the parents? Is it the NGOs? Is it the union? Well, if you're a Rowley supporter, you would readily agree with him that it is everybody else's responsibility except his government. But if you are a right-thinking person, you would agree that it is the responsibility of his government to properly support, to secure our borders, to prevent the continuous unlimited inflow of guns and sophisticated legal ammunition and drugs into our country. Comrades, let's face it. The country is now under siege, where citizens are literally living in gripping fear, where people believe that any minute they can become a victim of a serious crime. People truly believe that this government is hopeless and helpless in protecting them. Everybody knows somebody who is impacted by crime. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's not a matter of why, it's a matter of how you will be affected. Trinidad and Tobago has become a very risky place to live, comrades. Our country has now become a dangerous place to live. Well, let's be clear about all of this. Trinidad and Tobago has now become a very risky and dangerous place to live under a Rowley-led government. Let's be clear about that. And therefore, they must not be allowed to escape their responsibility of keeping our citizens safe. Now, instead of making our citizens safe and secure, because of their failed economic policies, they have made the entire country economically insecure. Crime and inequality are inextricably linked. Places with high income inequality have higher incidence of crime. This government has been very busy implementing IMF conditionality and measures, creating an even greater inequality in our country. The fact is, people are feeling immeasurable pain and suffering with no relief in sight. And this government is blaming COVID-19 and now blaming the war in Ukraine for their failure. But long before COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine, our economy was in a downward spiral. For those who want to accept this government's poor excuse, let me remind you that all countries impacted by COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine, their governments are putting measures in place to mitigate the hardship of their citizens, but not so with this so-called caring government under Rowley. But the fact is that we could have been benefiting from the significant price increases for our oil products, but we are not. We had to look on in amazement as refineries around the world cash in with 200% and 300% profits while our people continue to suffer. The decision to close Petrotrin was the worst economic decision by any government in recent history, and the people are now suffering. Let me say that again. In case you're opening your fridge and closing your fridge, let me say that again. The decision to close Petrotrin was the worst economic decision by any government in the recent history, and the people are now suffering. We warned the country that with the closure and the shutting down of the refinery, it would result in the quick removal of all of the subsidies and would lead to greater economic hardship for the people. We warned that there will be an increase in the fuel costs, which would mean more price increase in food, transport, goods and services. We warned that there will be an even greater shortage of foreign exchange for the country with the closure of Petrotrin. You see, apart from Petrotrin being a net foreign exchange earner, a guarantor of fuel security, and a major symbol of our country's economic independence, unlike Paria and Heritage, Petrotrin was also a major part of our public energy infrastructure around which the rest of the economy revolved. The fact is that over 7,000 permanent and temporary workers were placed on the breadline, with over 45,000 families negatively affected by the closure. The medical plan for the workers and retirees was brutally taken away, leaving a number of former Petrotrin workers and retirees to die simply because they cannot access their medical care and attention for illnesses they suffered as a result of the harsh working environment at Petrotrin. And you want to talk about collaboration? When we was talking about collaboration to save Petrotrin, you shut it down. But now you want to talk about collaboration? The Petrotrin Pension Plan quarterly actuarial financial report stated that as at December 2022, the pension plan is in a $7 billion deficit. This is a direct result of Petrotrin's closure, because with all the workers sent home in 2018, there are no contributions being made to the plan. The country continues to lose foreign exchange, and many businesses have been closed. Service providers across the country, many southern businesses have been severely impacted, with some having to close their doors entirely. And now, what Dr. Rowley is not telling you is that one of the reasons for the severe deterioration of our road throughout the country, where your vehicles are severely damaged on a daily basis, what he would not tell you is that with the closure of Petrotrin, there is no bitumen, one of the main materials used in road repairs and road paving. And while Petrotrin would have been producing bitumen for our country's road and foreign export, they now have to import the bitumen at great expense with a drain on of our already scarce foreign exchange. So don't be fooled, comrades, by the sudden rush to repair roads, which could never be completed in any time soon. The fact is, because of the extent of extreme road damage and years of P&M neglect, years of neglect by this government, once again, the rush to repair the roads is just an election ploy to fool you, the people. And now pay close attention to the poor quality of road paving and how they are very selective in which road they pave. Since the shutting down of Petrotrin, there was also, pay close attention, comrades. Since the shutting down of Petrotrin, there was also the abandonment of Petrotrin's network of sporting facilities. The Palaseco Velodrome, the sports ground in Pinal, Forest Reserve, and in Pointe-à-Pierre, including Garakara Park. These facilities supported the development of our young athletes in the southern region and throughout the country, where young people had a space for sports and youth development, which prevented many of them from turning to a life of crime. Whilst these facilities are left in a state of extreme abandonment, the only facility being maintained is the Pointe-à-Pierre Golf Club. So while they're abandoning all of the sporting facilities where our youths can play sports, the only facility is the Pointe-à-Pierre Golf Club. Why? Because the dictator plays golf. Doesn't that tell you something about where the priority of this government is? Whilst Paria and Heritage model is now being hailed by the Prime Minister as a success story to justify the shutting down of Petrotrin. You all see the recent video When he talking slow, 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 like he under some form of chloroform or some form of sedative. And he's trying to fool you again. So he's trying to hail that as a success story, but which shutting down caused enormous hardship to the country. The hard, cold fact is that there has been a sharp fall in crude oil production in Heritage, and Paria struggle to get foreign exchange to purchase fuel. Now I want them to contradict what I'm about to say. For yet another occasion, Keith Christopher Columbus has failed the honesty test, because how else do you explain these numbers? How do you explain oil production decline by 19% from 21,468 under Petrotrin Trinma in 2017 to 17,381 barrels per day under Heritage in 2022? It declined by 21.1%. And from 12,725 under Petrotrin land production to 10,000 barrels of oil per day under Heritage for the same period. How do you explain that? How do you explain the precipitous fall in crude oil production by Heritage by 21% from 42,800 plus to Petrotrin 33,000? Under Petrotrin, it was 33,453 barrels of oil. So from under Petrotrin, it was 42,800 plus, and Heritage now, it is 33,000 for the same period. If Paria and Heritage was such a success story, how do you explain Newman George, that fella that's play golf with him, his partner? How do you explain the letter dated September 6, 2022, to the Minister of Finance? According to the Guardian article, December 11, 2022, by Anna Ramdas, with the headline, quote, Paria in financial troubles. And I quote, as it stands now, Paria has not been able to meet our tax obligation since December 2021 and has a total outstanding taxes payable stands at 885 million and has accrued a penalty and interest in the amount of 104 million, George stated. End of quote. None of them denied this report. How do you explain that? Quoting from the Freedom of Information Act, how do you explain that Paria spent over 3.5 billion US dollars between the 1st of December 2018 and January 2022? Instead of spending our scarce foreign exchange to import fuel, we could have been producing that fuel for local consumption and for the international export. That is why Paria is now in financial trouble. How do you explain, and you don't like to hear this one, the Standard & Poor's report of a downgrade of TPHL last year, which includes both Heritage and Paria? How do you explain that? These figures are not our figures. These figures are taken from the Ministry of Energy itself. Comrades, in addition, as a result of their failed energy policy, you see, people don't often make the connection that bad government policies result in less resources for the people. Bad government policies result in suffering to the people. So as a result of their failed energy policy, the country has experienced a sharp decline in natural gas production. This has resulted in gas curtailment to all the gas users in the Point Lisa's estate. And as a consequence of that, every day they have to cut back gas. You have gas curtailment for those gas users in the estate, and that is resulting in a loss of foreign exchange to our country. But more than that, comrades, Train 1 of Atlantic LNG cannot be put into production because of the unavailability of natural gas. I want to hear them address that when they come to ask you for your vote on the platform. So the sad reality is that under this government and under their failed energy model, we have experienced a steep decline in oil and gas production. Now, let's turn to some workers' issues directly. This government plan is not to stop at Petrotrin, but their plan is to close and privatize a number of other state enterprises under the guise of restructuring, such as TNTech, MP, WASA, BIR, Customs, Swimco, and you heard our comrade, my comrade Leroy, dealt with WASA and the other public service entities, Swimco, TT Post, Lake Asphalt, Port of Port of Spain, and Port of Scarborough, the city and regional corporation. If we remain silent, comrades, if we remain silent, none of these state entities, including the entire public service, none of them will escape the wrath and destruction of Rowley and his government. But we will not, we must not, we shall not remain silent. Let me state from the onset for our detractors that the trade union movement has always advocated for making all these state enterprises efficient with the highest level of productivity. Our idea of making them productive will result in higher levels of job security, viability, and sustainability for all of these state enterprises. This is unlike the government's model of corruption and political interference and then privatizing them. For instance, in TNTech, whilst the union has taken TNTech to court and won on numerous occasions for their wanton abuse of contract labor, it is not only a violation of the collective agreement, but contract work negatively impacts the efficiency of the Commission's operation. We have many court judgments against TNTech for the abuse of contract work. Pay close attention, comrades, to those yellow trucks you see rolling on the road. Not every yellow truck you see is a TNTech truck. Look for the TNTech logo, you'll see it missing on them, most of them. That is the corrupt contractor truck who get in and give in the kickback. Look closely and you will observe that they do not carry the TNTech logo. Those are their contractor friends who are given tools and materials to do work that the permanent workers have to do and to do over. Whilst this produces a very high level of inefficiency at TNTech, you, the public, are now asked to pay for that inefficiency and increase in electricity costs. TNTech continued to display contempt for the industrial court by blatantly disregarding the court's order to meet and treat with the union concerning unilateral introduction of new procedures. So TNTech, who taken instruction from the minister, who taken instruction from the cabinet, who taken instruction from the prime minister, without any discussion, without any collaboration, and this man now saying we must collaborate. The selection process at TNTech's apprenticeship program has also been compromised by political interference. Unlike the programs of the past, TNTech is now mandated to accept recruits solely on the basis that they are PNM supporters. This is seriously affecting the program's ability to deliver high-quality trained apprentices to meet TNTech's demand for a reliable and efficient service. TNTech management has also failed to meet and treat with the union on the fundamental issues, including the critical issues of health and safety. Recently, TNTech management covered up an asbestos situation using a private company to address the issue whilst withholding information from the union. Withholding information from the union and the workers a clear violation of the OSH Act. Another major issue at TNTech is the secretly conducted manpower audit. This manpower audit will negatively impact the terms and conditions of workers, and we are convinced that they are planning to use it to send home TNTech workers. At the level of TNTech's management, there continues to exist a high level of incompetence, political appointees. For instance, they have failed to adequately ensure proper stock of tools, PPEs, vehicles, and spares. Just to ensure unlimited service and even limited service to the customers, workers are now being forced to purchase their own PPEs and even worse, purchase spares and spare parts for the TNTech vehicles. Workers, eh? Workers. In addition, TNTech did not properly prepare for the passing of the procurement legislation, leaving its operation completely vulnerable. Given the nature of the TNTech operations, the current poor industrial relations climate seriously threatening TNTech's ability to provide a reliable supply of service to its customers. It seems that this counterproductive approach is driven by the line minister and his government. For instance, despite the many investigations which identified a number of issues by a certain manager in Central, despite these findings, TNTech's top management and the board refused to address this situation. It is without a doubt, comrades, TNTech operation plays a critical role in the country's economy with the obvious need for a delivery of reliable service to its customers 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Like the TNTech workers, like the WASA workers, today I want to publicly commend TNTech workers and WASA workers for providing that reliable service in spite of the mismanagement and corruption at TNTech and WASA. Another example is SwimCol, an essential service. These workers risk their lives daily in some of the most hazardous and inhumane working conditions. They do this in treating with the waste of the entire country. These workers receive the lowest wages in the entire state-run sector and therefore deserve much more than the disrespectful 4% for 6 years. With their plans to privatize SwimCol and send home all the workers, there's no intention by this government to give these workers a proper and decent wage adjustment, while refusing the union's proposal, which can actually earn the company an additional $188 million annually. Instead, SwimCol continues to contract out work to their friends. The privatization of all state enterprises and regional corporations will come with major job losses. Getting rid of decent negotiated terms and conditions is this government's vision of development. For this government, workers having decent paying jobs is simply not a good thing. Just imagine. This disrespect is also meted out to our nation's educators. Many teachers continue to be left without classification of their leave, and in some instances, taking years, leading to a loss of benefit that teachers can access. In addition, there continues to be long delays in appointments across the teaching service. Further, the Early Childhood Care and Education, ECCE, the teachers there continues to be exploited with a growing trend of contract employment in the teaching service. In addition to being forced to accept the disrespectful 4%, the government continues to place the lives of our fire officers and the public at risk. The majority of our fire stations are in a dilapidated condition posing great threat to the health and safety of fire officers and the public. The shortage of trucks, breathing apparatuses, and breathing apparatus set are extremely important to these fire officers. Other fire equipment and other PPEs are at extreme shortage, and this continues to put the lives of the fire officers and the public at risk. And this is curtailing their ability to respond in cases of fire and emergency. But get this, Trinidad and Tobago, Faizabad. The unavailability of fire trucks in Siparia recently contributed to the death of a mother and an 8-year-old daughter. This occurred because it took the penal fire trucks to respond to the Siparia fire. What is even more damning, with this shortage of trucks and important equipment, no one in the government is held to account for the deaths of this mother and daughter. No one is held to account. Recently, the OWT was given the same 4% offer for the UE workers. The union immediately rejected that offer because the UE workers, like the other workers, deserve much more than the 4%. So here what we're going to do. You see the 0-0 we get from that same fella in the ESD. In the court, the union appealed that 0-0-0. We do not accept that. You see that same 4% they offer UE workers recently? The OWTU reject that outright. And so we're standing with our comrades in the public service, in the PSA, that say, come hell or high water, regardless of what they say, we reject outright that disrespectful 4%. Not taking that. For this government, it is a good thing to pay you menial wages. But at the same time, they can pay a CEO in Heritage in excess of $180,000 a month. And that is not even including perks. It is okay for the banks to rake in hundreds of millions of dollars in profits. It's okay for the 1% to make billions of dollars in profits. It's okay for the government to give their friends multi-million-dollar contracts. But for this government, it's not okay for workers who turn the wheels of the economy to receive a decent wage. This government is now on a vicious, evil campaign to remove trade unions and to reduce terms and conditions that we fought for and won. No other government, from Williams to Chambers to Robinson to Pandey to Kamla, none of them attempted to get rid of the trade union movement and to get rid of collective agreements and to drive down wages and to send home workers. None of them. But this government want to make good on their promises to destroy the trade union movement. But that, and God face, they will never see. In case they open the door and they close in the fridge, that and God face, they must never be allowed to see. But I want to tell them this evening that evil has a shelf life. Evil has an expiry date. And good shall always prevail over evil, because weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning. Our joy cometh in the morning. And all the talk they talk, and all the ungrateful they're ungrateful, and all that they deny you, your time coming, because this is vampire season and vampire passing, and they're going to be coming and asking you for a vote. This is workers' time. Workers' time now to express yourself. Workers' time now to express your dissatisfaction. Express your dissatisfaction against that disrespectful 4%. Express your dissatisfaction against the arrogance You're saying that like you don't know. You're saying that like you don't know. What are we talking about? And not come back. So even though it existed before, instead of correcting it, this Rowley-led government is fully accelerating contract work throughout the public service and throughout all the state enterprises, leaving no hope for our young persons who would have qualified themselves. Our young people took the mighty sparrows' advice and they went to school and learned. Remember that? Remember that? Children go to school and learn well. Otherwise, later on in life, you go catch real hell. Without an education in your head, your whole life will be promissory. You're better off dead. For there is simply no room in this whole wide world for an uneducated little boy or girl. Don't follow idle companion to lead you astray. To earn tomorrow, you got to learn today. Well, our children took mighty sparrows' advice. They went to school and learned well. They qualified themselves up to tertiary level and from undergrad straight up to PhD. But under Rowley, they are now catching real hell. What is this government's vision for our qualified young people? This government is satisfied to have our well-qualified youth exploited with a what? A 6 months, a 3 months, a month-to-month contract with absolutely no job security. These young people are not able to fully establish themselves and to start a family and to build sustainable communities. That is the kind of bleak future our government wants for our well-qualified young professionals. If given the opportunity, 9 out of 10 of every young qualified professional would leave this country in a heartbeat to go to a foreign country to work and live. Why? Because there's absolutely no hope for them, no opportunities for expansion and growth and development for them in their country of birth. But let's ask another question. These multinational companies who extract billions of dollars from our resources for their own